What do we know, everybody? I think today I'll tell you the story of my first vehicle. And when you're a teenager, your first car, pickup, whatever, it's a huge moment. It's something that you really dream of, or at least we did. I don't know about kids nowadays. I don't know if they dream of it or not. I know back then you saw your buddies running around in rust bucket pickups, and that's what you wanted. But this was the time before everybody watched YouTube all the time. This is before the big reality shows come out where all these teenagers are driving around in fancy cars. I mean, we wanted the rust bucket. We wanted something that we could work on. I mean, if it had a pulse, if it would drive, get you from point A to point B, even if it wasn't safe or that mechanically sound or anything like that, we were just happy with it. I mean, you could take these pickups out in the hills, you could take them through the mud, you could do whatever, you could bang them up a bit, it wouldn't make a difference. If it broke down, either you or your buddies could figure out how to fix it, or your dad could talk you through it over one of your buddies' cell phones, because they were first kind of coming in at that time. Nowadays, I see these high school kids driving around in newer vehicles. Some got sports cars. I mean, there's some high school kids that got nicer vehicles than anything I've ever owned, except for the wife's car. But back in the day, it was, something you really dreamed of and really got excited for. And when I got my pickup, my first pickup, I can't remember if I was 14 or 15. But it blindsided me. I don't know how my grandpa and dad and whatever kept it a secret. But I just know that one Saturday, Dad wasn't around, Grandpa wasn't around. They went somewhere together, and then I think my grandma finally slipped up and kind of figured something out. So they showed up, and Dad was the one driving the pickup. Grandpa had ended up finding it for $150, and I don't remember if he found it on the Party Line radio show, or if it was listed in the paper, or how that all went down. But Grandpa called Dad. I don't think Mom and Dad were too into it yet because I wasn't driving age. But they ended up splitting the cost. I think $75 a piece. And they went up there and they got this pickup from, and I kid you not, a dude with one tooth. And he was the hillbilly king of central Nebraska, apparently. But they drove that pickup back, and it really had no brakes. Brake booster was shot. It was, I don't know how Dad got it back, but they got it back. And I was just over the moon excited. I mean, it was your first pickup, your first vehicle, and it was yours. And this pickup wasn't real nice by any means. It was a single cab Ford F-150. It was a mid to late 1980s. It was rough. Somewhere along the line, it had been T-boned. The frame was bent. You can see where they did the one side and they didn't match the color up right. But oh well, it was mine. There was junk in the back, here in the box. The inside was just disgusting. There were mice nests up in all the ductwork. There was mice nests on the floor. Rat poop everywhere. It stunk. It stunk. I mean, there was garbage everywhere. It was a disgusting, disgusting pickup. And I cannot stress that enough. I mean, I've done some pretty dirty stuff. I work with cows every day. I mean, this was bad, really bad. But it's your first vehicle. I mean, you're excited for it. Now, when I was a really little kid, my grandpa taught me how to work on lots of stuff. Last story video I talked about, working on small engines on the tiller and stuff like that when I was a really little boy. So I could work on tillers, lawnmowers, things like that. And when my grandpa would do, like say, brakes or do something with the drive line or change oil, work on anything on those vehicles, I was his shadow. And I watched and I listened and I tried to learn as much as I could. And my grandpa, I think he was about like any other old guy. I don't really think he was the best teacher, so to speak, but he would explain why we're doing stuff. And just watching him, I kind of see what was going on. He'd give me these tips and pointers, and even though back then I really didn't know what he was talking about, I was able to put that away in the memory bank, so when I got a little older and I could kind of understand things a little bit better, that all that stuff would come back to me. And it was a pretty great deal. But Grandpa went around and he found a brake booster, and we went out and we took that off a vehicle in the junkyard, and we come back and we put it on, and we had to clean the carburetor up, and we had to redo the carburetor on it, and I think we actually had to put a different one on, because the one the guy put on there was a big carb, but it wasn't made for that pickup or that engine. So I think we put a new carb on, we still couldn't get it to run right. And we ended up going to one of his old buddies' place, and we popped the hood on his pickup to see how the vacuum lines were run. Redid all the vacuum lines, and we redid a lot of stuff in there just to make it so it would run and drive like it was supposed to. And as a teenage kid, that was awesome. Because, you're, 14, 15 years old, you're not really allowed to go work on all this different stuff. Back then we thought tools and junk was cool. But look at me now. I'm 32 years old and I still love turning wrenches on stuff. But Grandpa and we did everything to get that thing to run and drive like it was supposed to. He showed me how to take the bench seat out. And Dad worked with me a little bit on that. We got the bench seat out of there and we got the vacuum in there. We cleaned everything out. Showed me how to get the mice nests out of the ductwork and how to clean all that stuff out and how to clean out the squirrel cage on the blower. And then Dad had an old rusty white toolbox, and I put a little rusty white toolbox on there. And I put tools in there. Every time it would rain, the tools would get rusty, so I didn't put any of the real good stuff that I had. And mind you, as a teenager, you didn't have a whole lot of good tools, but you had a few things that cost you a little more money than the others did. But it was good. It was fun. And that satisfaction of being able to drive that thing after all the work that you did was awesome. But I didn't ever drive that much in high school. I always had these big dreams that I was going to go and put my soda pop or whatever behind the seat and be able to drink that every morning and go cruising and go do this, that, and the other. And it never really happened. I drove around a little bit, but I lived a block and a half away from school. So I just walked to school every morning. And I didn't go cruising a whole lot because, I didn't make a whole lot of money. It wasn't really feasible. Gas was really cheap back then, but I had other things I could spend my money on. Excuse me. But every high school kid, I think they have those dreams, especially in a small town. In a bigger city, it may be a little bit different. I'm not sure how it all works there. But I know in the small rural communities, you cruise around the town square. You just hang out, drive around, take it easy. And it don't change much when you get older. There are middle-aged people and older people that do the same thing on Fridays and Saturdays. Just go out and they go cruising, just driving around. Even we do that every once in a while. We get there towards the weekend, or if we had a rough day, we'll jump in the vehicle and we'll go take these gravel roads and go look at some of the different farms and feedlots. It's fun. But that pickup had a few issues with it that never did get solved. They had a starter on there that didn't stay tight. I think the threaded holes were a little bit stripped. So you had to keep tightening that up. And then they put a starter on there that wasn't the right starter for the pickup. And so we ended up making little bushings, I guess you'd call them, to go in there so the starter didn't shake too much. We didn't have a clip for the rod to get a linkage that goes to the transmission off the engine. So once in a great while, that would pop off. And our solution for that was actually a bread twist tie. Once in a while, it would pop off and it would pressure shift, and you knew exactly what was going on, and you'd pull it over somewhere, pop the hood, put it back on. Not a big deal. But that pickup was so fun to mess with. It was one of the older pickups, had the carburetor on it. You could actually work on it. You could actually do stuff. It was a blast. And the amount of stuff that I learned just with that pickup was great. And we get a little bit older, my uncle ended up giving me a CB radio. He gave me some whips to put on there because my uncle thinks, well, truck driver thinks every vehicle's got to have whips, and if you got whips, you got to have a radio. And that's the way I look at it too. I mean, I drove truck for 7 years, pulled bull rack. Always had a radio. I hate when people put whips on their pickups and they don't run a radio. It's just dumb to me. I mean, some guys like it for the aesthetics, that's fine, but I don't know. You got whips, run a radio. I mean, that's just personal preference for me. It'll bug the heck out of me till the day I die. But we hooked that radio up and I tuned it in, and my uncle helped me get that set up. And put a new stereo in it. Dad helped me with that, showed me how to take out a radio, how to put a new one in, because it had one of the old AM FMs in there that didn't work real good, where you had to pull the deal out to set your favorites on it. And then we ended up, Dad got me a speaker to go behind the seat. I did that. I wired up a coyote siren on it and wired that into the speaker and put a toggle switch on it. So if I had somebody in the pickup wanted to mess with them, I could flip that toggle switch and about blow their eardrums. Then we put lights inside of it. You got blue lights on the floor, blue lights on the dash. It had no headliner in it. It had the base of a headliner, which is good, had the cardboard piece. But that was it. And Dad ended up going to Walmart, and it was pretty cool at the time, and it worked out really good. But he got some fabric that was kind of black with blue flames. And so he showed me how to take the headliner out, and we ended up putting that fabric on there with spray adhesive, and we got it, put little butterfly pins, I guess you'd call them, to stick up through there, and he folded the ends out, and it looked like a professional job. It looked really nice. And there was odd and end things that we did in there. I think one of the cab corners on the driver's side was messed up, and Dad went out there, cleaned some stuff up. Man, he was a body man. Cleaned some stuff up, filled it, sanded it down, and they had some color match rattle can in there. And sprayed it with that, and it actually looked pretty good. It held up great. But that was a good pickup, a good, reliable pickup. I loved it. I loved it. And then when I was going to college, probably one of the dumbest things I ever did was I was interested in my buddy's, what was it? Camaro, I think, with 5-speed in it. And so when I was getting ready to go to college out in Wyoming, I called my uncle. My buddy wanted $850 for it. I called my uncle, told him, $850, you can have the pickup. Well, okay. He decided that was okay. Well, then he brought one of his televisions that he had in his truck and left at the house. Said, well, that's 50 of it. Well, then my buddy called me and said, well, my sister has part of the stake in that. She don't want to sell the car. So Dad and I gave Dad money. He went down to a police auction and bought, I think it was an '89 Buick LeSabre. So I could go to college in that because it was a TBI. So I'd do better on fuel and you wouldn't have to adjust carb in the mountains. But my uncle, it took him a while, but he paid Mom and Dad, and he got the pickup. And then it sat forever, and one of his buddies threw a new carb in it, and that didn't work. And it had issues with the alternator and the starter, and big issues with the alternator. It was bad. And then he went and got a used one, threw it on there, and it was just as bad. But I missed that pickup. I loved that pickup, and I should have never sold it to him. And then I got to the point where I could buy it back from him. So I gave him the money, little by little, got the pickup back, and I put different lights in it, and was gonna change the alternator, never got around to it. My uncle in that time ended up putting dual exhaust on it, new wheels and tires, and I put a visor on the front for him, and it was a sharp looking deal. Very sharp looking deal. He put some new lights in the dash, I liked that pickup. Love that pickup. And looking back now, really wish I still had that pickup, or I wish I could find one like it. I love that style of Ford. I love those pickups. And there's so many things I wish, if I had a pickup like that I would do now. But I ended up trading that to Dad for one of my brother's old cars. It was just easier on gas, it worked out just fine. But in the end, I still should have kept that pickup. I really should have. But it doesn't matter anymore. I mean, it was just a fantastic moment when I got that. It's such a great, great moment. And being able to spend that time with my grandpa and learning how to work on all this stuff and how to repair it and coming up with all these big dreams and ideas. And now I say I'm 32 years old and I would love to go get another pickup like that, but you see pickups around like that, and the younger guys usually have them, say high school kids just out of high school, and they want way too much money for these things. I mean, the town we used to live in, they had a kid that had one just about like it. It was a two-wheel drive pickup. And he wanted, $5,000 or something for that thing. And it wasn't worth it. It was rusted out. It didn't run good. It had a hole in one of the gas tanks. People want way too much for nothing anymore, I think. They price stuff to make money instead of pricing stuff to get rid of it. Which I guess I can see both ways. I can see why they would do it both ways, but it's still irritating. But the big advent of these smartphones and being able to put stuff on, like Craigslist, love Craigslist, or being able to put it on, Facebook Marketplace, things like that, and being able to list it all over the place. I mean, they can overprice this stuff, and somebody, in another state where stuff is higher priced yet, they might think it's a good deal. I mean, I went to college in Wyoming with a kid like that. He had a pickup that none of us would have gave $200 for, that he would have gladly dropped $4,000 or $5,000 on, because that was just the way vehicle prices were where he was from. It's the same with Big Iron and Tractor House anymore. I mean, you used to be able to go to a farm auction, bid stuff to what you're willing to pay, and everything's going to be good. You're going to get stuff and still be able to make a profit at the end of the year. You're not going to have to go talk to the banker about a bunch of stuff. Nowadays on, the internet auction stuff, you have people all over the country bidding on this, and you don't stand a shot unless you're going to pony up a lot of money to get some of this stuff, which is both good and bad. It's bad for guys like me that don't have the big money to spend or the great credit to go out and get a huge loan for a lot of stuff. But it's also good, if I had some of that stuff around and I wanted to get rid of it, I'd make a decent profit. I mean, if I could go out and rebuild some of this stuff you see sitting in some scrap yards and put it on there, I might be able to make some money. But it's just different time, different day and age. Technology is both good and bad. I mean, we've all seen it. But one of these days, I'm going to have a pickup like that. One of these days, I'm going to be able to have one of those, dress it up, and enjoy it. But now, do I need it? No. My wife has her nice car, and we'll probably get a new one here in the next couple of years. Now we got that one brand new. Brand new. And then I got a work pickup. The guy that I work for on the farm and do all the farming stuff, the ranch turning, the cattle stuff, he supplies a work pickup and the gas and everything like that. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to go out and get a pickup just to get it. I mean, one of these days, maybe we're a little more financially secure or stable and I got time to mess around, then maybe. But as far as right now, I don't have the time to mess with that kind of stuff. I still got stuff I got to do in the barn, chicken house, chicken coop. I still got stuff to do with the garden, still got stuff I got to redo in the house. I still got a whole bunch of fence out here I got to redo if we want to get any sort of critters other than a horse. So, there's plenty of stuff that I got to get done before I can even think about having something just for fun. But boy, wouldn't it be nice just to be able to go to the garage and tinker on stuff like that. I mean, that's just always been a blast to me. Just being able to mess around with stuff on your own, stuff that's your own, do what you want with it. And it's a whole different feeling when you're doing stuff like that versus stuff for a customer. And I don't know. It was fun. It was a good pickup. It wasn't a great pickup. It wasn't anything to write home about, but boy, when you're that young, it was still fun. And looking back and thinking of that pickup and all the fun stuff I did, and just the cruising around. And having that pickup that's just yours, and that mean sound of that dual exhaust, and the speakers and stuff we threw in there, being able to play the music and have it bump a little bit, it was fun. It was fun. And I wish these kids nowadays could experience stuff like that. And I still see them drive around a little bit, but it's nothing like the stuff that we did. And it seems like there's more implications with the stuff they're doing. Like everything that they do has a purpose. When we were driving around, there was no purpose. It was just putting on the local radio station and cruising. Maybe you were lucky and you had a good CD you could pop in. But things change, times change, everything changes. But anyway, guys, I know I got to ramble in there a little bit. If you stuck around the end, y'all deserve a cookie. I enjoy making these videos. I enjoy talking. I enjoy remembering these things and telling stories. And I think the wife enjoys me being able to tell this to the camera rather than talking her ear off for a half an hour. But anyway, guys, as always, I thank you all for watching.